All right. Welcome back, folks, to another open court discussion in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Ow!
Man, and I actually pulled out the wrong form today, so that's okay. Uh, that's okay. Still gonna be on point. So recap from last week's show. Well, as far as our panel goes, that's always a Showtime decision. If that's you and you feel like joining, um, don't hold back. Let us know in the chat. And as far as a recap from this past Monday's show, what's the deal with the word submission? We focus on two main themes: why women are reluctant to submission, and when are the times men should be submissive. So if you're interested in listening to the entire broadcast, go over and check it out on the Controversial Counselors YouTube channel. Okay, shifting gears. Tonight, July 31st, we will discuss the impact of mental health on women in relationships. We will cover multiple areas such as the mental health disorders women suffer from, the impact in relationships, the rising of anxiety disorders, and how can men be supportive, and why do some men decide to leave. So as you can see, we have a lot going on tonight. So again, if you're someone that suffered from it, or I'm sure everyone knows someone that's going through it, feel free to chime in. We'd love to hear your feedback. Also, please like and share our video, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. So currently we're sitting at like 722 subs. Really trying to get to 800 by the end of the summer. So people, make sure you're subscribing. Um, Click on that icon bell to be notified when the show is going on. And hey, let's just keep rolling and keep having these great dynamic conversations. Hey Sandra, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. So here we are. We're here tonight to talk about mental health and how does it impact women in relationships. But before we get going, what's going on, Herb? Anything new, exciting?
Work always gives me something to be grateful for. Um, 2 days ago, I believe it was what amounts to Sunday morning. A young brother from the continent came in. Now, unfortunately for him, he excuse me, I got the hiccups, people, so bear with me tonight. He was refused entry into Canada. I'm not sure what the reason why. It's a young brother, 18, 19 years old, from Chad. So I found out he spoke English because a lot of African countries, due to colonization, have multiple dialects that they speak. So I end up being able to figure out what he needed and where he needed to go. So, you know, that situation worked itself out, even though there were some hiccups, the irony, hiccups along the way. And it just reinforces what I new belief that I have, that, you know, in order to receive grace, you need to give grace. And that's something that I'm going to touch on tonight. Excuse me, because I think a lot of us, we go through life, we really don't consider the ramifications or the impact of anything beyond what we can control. And sometimes we don't even consider that. It's like, well, what could I have done? You know, why did this happen to me? Or if I'd have did this differently, would I have gotten this outcome? So, we always have a role to play for the most part in things that seemingly are out of our control. But in order to be able to exhibit that, you have to be willing to give up some things to get some things. So, like I said, though, I was glad I was able to help the brother, get on his way, because I could not imagine being in a foreign country, not knowing the language, the cultures, and most of all, not having a telephone, so he didn't have contact with anybody. So it was a situation.
All right, for me, as you know, this I don't even know. I think I said it last week. I don't know where this summer went, and it's crazy to me to think that tomorrow is August, and here we go again in that August, and getting ready for school to start back again, and just for the fact that this year just flew by, and it's just like, I guess as you get older, it just flies by, and that's the importance of trying to have balance in your life. Um, because when you don't have balance, that's when I think mental health issues kick in. And you may say that may not be the case, but I think any one of us at any given time could fall victim to something if we don't have adequate balance. And I think that's it's vital as far as that. But for me, it was going. It's been flying by. But what the one thing I really enjoyed, I was like a kid this weekend. See, for me, there's nothing better than big time boxing on a Saturday night. Not the little scrubs fighting, like major fights. And with this, I mean, I'm sure y'all seen all the memes going around, and with Bud Crawford and Errol Spence, two warriors. But I've been a Bud fan since, like I said, like 2015, maybe 2014. So no matter what, I was rolling with him, and had the luxury of taking a picture with him in Vegas, and kind of threw it out there to get him going. Because sometimes with these athletes, they can have a little chip on their shoulder, uh, but I kind of hit and I was being genuine with it when he came out the door. I was like, Bud Crawford about to take over the business when Floyd retired. So that got him to kind of smile, because he was still young and gray in the game. But I guess for him, like, okay, this guy, he's watching. So he took the pictures, smiled. We took a couple pics, and then I've been rolling with him since day one. And that performance he put on Saturday, spectacular. But my heart went out to Errol Spence too, because as much as I am a competitor, I never want to see somebody get, beat down to the point that they like it start getting ugly. So at one point I'm cheering for Bud, but then I'm like, please stop this fight, please, because he's been through so much. I mean, this guy survived and even came back from boxing after getting into an accident, driving over 100 miles per hour, getting thrown out the car, and survived it. Was able to box, beat two quality boxers, and still survived. So it was just amazing to get amped up like that. And sometimes we all have to have passion and things that we look forward to. So that's what that was more about. It was more about energizing me, because, like I said, the dog days of the summer, it's been hot as hell. Time just flying by, and I think that kind of was like a recharge for me. But here we have it. So we must move on and move forward and keep striving, and then again also just keep losing people, man, like in our age group. And
Yeah.
it's scary, man. It's scary times too,
Yeah.
as well. So the one thing, just talking to people that, hey, you got to do what you got to do. If it's something you want to do, you got to live. You got to do it. Time isn't forever. So you have to start thinking on that level. But please be wise about it, because some people say I'm gonna do what I got to do, but then in the same breath they're doing it and knowing, well, shit, I'm about to get evicted, or this is about to be cut off, or or I now don't have no money to buy my kids anything for school supplies. So be mindful what you're doing, but if it's within your power, health wise and financially, just try to get it done. Because again, I don't know, it's been some crazy times and a lot of heartfelt deaths been coming down the pipe, like with coworkers and stuff, that people you worked with and you see, and then all of a sudden you get text messages that they die. Like, so much going on. But then this part plays a part in the mental health too. Like stress, stress is everything. Stress is up there with cancer. Uh, like those words. It's they're frightening, and you damn sure don't want to have cancer. But then even before that, stress, because stress can cause uh, a lot of illnesses or flare up a
Mhm.
lot of things when you stressed out. So that's just something to keep in mind about too.
Yeah. Speaking of
We
which,
got
man,
some.
oh, go ahead.
I was just saying we got some people in here. Some people,
Yeah.
Facebook groups, love your best life. Will live your best life. G said, "Good evening, gentlemen. Hope all is well. Good evening, sir." And um, another Facebook user say, "Hey y'all, hey y'all."
Yeah,
uh,
I couldn't see who that was.
so we here.
That just didn't appear. Yeah,
Um,
that's weird.
so again, the impact of mental health with women in relationships. Herb, what's your first thought when you think of that?
There's a I have as I've been doing the last few shows, I've been writing down some show notes, and I got a lot of stuff in front of me, and it's all relevant, in one way or another. So I'm gonna try and put as much of this out there for the public discussion as possible. Now, you know, um, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna sound stupid saying it, but I think it needs to be prefaced. Men and women are different. Okay, our needs, wants, and desires are vastly different. So just like I had the hierarchy, the triangle based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs for men, I also have one for women. At the top, number one, paramount for women is safety. Goes without saying. Wherever they are, whatever they're doing, they want to feel safe. This is why you always hear them talk about, ooh, that guy creeps me out. They get that vibe, they get that energy, and they don't feel safe. All right, so that's number one. Number two, and this is probably understated. I know we hear it in sign language and everything else, but for women, they need to be right and not for the reasons men might think that they need to be right. One bad decision for a female, one wrong decision for a female can change her life tremendously. Okay? There's no two ways about it. She hanging out with the wrong crowd, something happens, she go to jail, promise her career could be derailed. Sexual assault, hanging out with the wrong crowd, wrong place, wrong time, somebody slipped something in a drink, all of that stuff is real. Okay. Uh, I had postpartum in here, but I'm gonna drop that down for a little bit because not all women will suffer postpartum, but that's a big problem that men don't consider. Once again, we know we're talking about this also from what men need to understand so they can better deal with women who they might be dating or they might have a friendship with who females just might need to lean on. All right. Um, their health, their physical health,
Ooh, I'm laughing
and
at that comment, but we're gonna address that. But also, I like the fact that Nanito Calangio Abilo said, "I'm watching from can't pronounce it Tempalios in Bengue del
oh, the
Sul,
Philippines.
Philippines." All
Yes,
right,
sir.
now
Thank you for joining.
that's
Yeah.
all right. Thanks for joining the counselor's corner, all the way from the Philippines.
and then being perfect. Okay. Women have this insatiable need and desire to be perfect, and not in our eyes, but in her own eyes. And that's something nobody is ever going to achieve. I mean, let's face it. We we do that and try and try and try, and we just never get this. Like that night you step out, your hair's right, the edge up, jewelry, shoes. You say, "Yeah, this is that look," but something never just sits right. It just never does. It just never does. All right. So let me start off by saying this. In this show, we're going to discover if this topic is a tug of wills or this is an intricate dance. If this is going to be a tug of wills, then the concern would be about the proverbial rope holding up under the pressure. If this is going to be an intricate dance, then it becomes, can you take the weight? You're probably asking, why do I need to take the weight? The answer is simple. You want to lead, correct? With that, I'm going to impress upon you this: accept the blame. Do not internalize it, because we as men, when we hear criticism from women, we tend to internalize it and say, well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Gotta stop that. Don't internalize it. And the way you do that is understanding that when you step into that role in the leadership position, that's what it calls for. It calls for taking and accepting everything that comes with that position, good, bad, or indifferent. For the sports fans, I'm going to give you a little sports analogy. When Scott Norwood missed that Super Bowl, that Bills fans are still lamenting about, he got to that podium and answered, or in his locker room, I should say, and answered every question without flinching. Undoubtedly, the most painful time in that man's professional career, probably his life. Didn't flinch. That's leadership. And those are qualities that are hard to come by. And there's power in holding yourself accountable. It means you understand your position, the authority delegated to you, and what you must do to keep things moving forward. Now, we all know female nature is unstable, chaotic, and unbalanced. It's what it is. That's why men are needed by women to stabilize it. Now, they'll disagree, and I understand that. I don't have a problem with them disagreeing because no one wants to be seen as needing somebody. So, fellas, I want you to do this. I want you to ask him this question. Ask him, how long have they been friends with their best female friend? Just ask them that. And understand something else, fellas. Whatever you do, whatever you decide, don't punish a female, no matter who she is, for acting on her nature. Now, that don't mean we let them run amok. We don't do that. Remember the intricate dance. You lead. So you have to keep them on the straight and narrow. It's a very delicate thing. This is why you got to develop the skills to be able to do that. And the always needing to be right doesn't work well for women. Facts and feelings are like oil and water. They don't mix. And if you consistently, because we get this in the counselor's corner, and I understand it. This is why some of the discussions I just kind of just fade to the background now and I just watch. let the need to be right take a second seat, sit in the passenger seat, and try and delve more into her feelings. Now, BGS has been doing a magnificent job with uh animus and anima, and that's esoteric stuff, and I'll get to that some other time. I won't do it here, but that goes in part with shadow work. And fellas, if you want to ascend to that next level with women, this is the type of stuff that you need to understand. And I'll be dropping links in the counselor's corner by and by. All right, but keep in mind, for women, feelings are everything.
It's one of the comments I wanted to go back to. I'm trying to find it. Oh, it said man playing mind games with a lot of these weak women is a big problem. Uh, Playing mind games, and that could, and that would be a big problem. But for me, I think men and women are kind of on that level of who can get each other first, like those, like I got you. Um, so, and I'm not saying, far as percentage wise, who's playing more mind games or not, but I think it's both parties, and more than likely, everybody comes into a relationship with some damage done. Now you'll have people who say nothing ever, they're good, they live this perfect life, but for the most part, many of us have been through things and may continue to go through things. So I guess when you allow somebody to play mind games, then sometimes you have to question yourself, because it's probably not the first person that played mind games with you. Because you know some people are thorough. Once it happened once, they catch on to the game, and they not dealing with it after. But if you're someone that it happens over and over and over, it's you. You're a target, and depending on where you live, people talk, guys talk, and more than likely, if you're in a small area, these guys kind of they didn't heard things. They've heard things about you. So the next person to say, "Hey, well, shit, that program worked for me. So let me introduce myself to her," and that's how a lot of you get caught out there, because it's still the same similar people that you're dealing with. Instead of stepping out and having like a new circle, or having taking on new interests and establishing different boundaries. If you don't do that, we already know what that means. It's the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing, you're gonna get the same results. Especially and the thing is, you expect different results, but it's not gonna happen. So at some point, you got to stop saying these guys are playing mind games, and you got to say, "Excuse my language, what the fuck is wrong with my mind?" And you have to look at that. So that's that.
This is not there's a comment that I actually want to get to in the chat, but I'll get to that momentarily because I just want to follow with what you said. Um, I will tell, since we're speaking to men and women, but women understand what it is that they have to deal with. So for the most part, I'm going to be speaking more to the men, so the men can try and get an understanding. Yes, this is the comment I was going to get to. So men get a better understanding, at least on a small level, of what it's like. And it reminds me of the movie Not As Good As It Gets. Um what women really think I was. It was Helen Hunt, and I can't remember who played the male co-star along with it. But anyway, he was able to read women's thoughts And half of the thoughts that he was able to read just freaked him out. He was like, I can't believe all this. This is like things. And then when he can anticipate something because he knew the thought, it was a revelation for the women. There was like it's refreshing to actually have a man do this because we don't think men care, and for the most part, men don't. And I'm gonna say this tongue in cheek, men, treat your relationship with women like fractions. In order to do fractions or divide them, you need a common denominator so you got that balance. Make sure that you're getting something in return. Because if you continue to give and give and give and you don't get anything back, you're going to be resentful. And when you become resentful, you are of no good to anyone, including yourself, because then you start to become destructive. Remember, in all of this, if you choose a woman, no matter if it's for friendship, friends with benefits, long term relationship, or marriage, you chose her. And this is part of being a leadership. Accept everything that comes down the pipe. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be your fault that something happens, but you have to accept that. Say, okay, you know what? I missed that, or maybe I didn't see that coming, or maybe that mask that she had on, I didn't see that. So let me go back to what Roxanne was saying, and I'll read the comment. She says, women feel under attack. We are told what to do with our bodies. The people we vote for, we vote into leadership. We befriended the LGBTQI community only to be told that we don't own womanhood. One day thick is in, the next day it's thin. We are told we don't have value after 30. We can't shop without fear of sex trafficking. Yeah, we're paranoid, afraid, confused at the same time. I'm going to go back to what I've said at least half a dozen times on this platform. If you have gotten to our age, which is in our late 40s, early 50s, and you as a female don't have a good male friend that you could turn to talk to about these things, you have failed to launch into adulthood. I know it sounds harsh, but this is the reason why you need those friends. Just earlier, I was talking to a young lady that I've been involved with. I've known for 20 some odd years, between 20, 22, 23 years. She told me about some things going on in life. I said, we'll talk. My girlfriend knows a lot of things about me. I don't know if you want to hear her thoughts. It might be too delicate. Your ears might be too delicate for that. But anyway, let me get back to what I was saying. Um, it helps for women to be able to offload that onto a man. So, if her fears are legitimate, he can help her deal with them. And if they're not legitimate, he can also help her deal. Now, there is really no way for a man to know if a woman's feelings are legitimate unless he's there observing what it is she's going through. Because two people can see the exact same thing and have vastly different opinions and perspectives on it. We see it all the time in the counselor's corner. We see it all the time. Matter of fact, you were talking about boxing at the top of the show. How many times judges see a fight and they get two different completely scores? It happens.
Part of
It
that
happens.
is
So,
that's to a different story, but part of that is I don't know how the hell you could be 80 years old judging a boxing fight, but go figure. I mean that's what they do. They keep their people employed. I don't
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
You can't do anything else, but you can watch some quick ass hands go back and forth, and you can judge a boxing fight. But that's where we at with that.
Yeah. And I was, as I write my show's material, I like to listen to songs, some classic rock, some modern rock, some contemporary R&B. There's a song by a group called Matchbox 20. I want y'all to listen to the song too. And the song is She's So Mean. We tend to think that women are always mean and harsh because they do or say something that we consider to be just outlandish. And that's not what it is. That's their nature. And they operate in their nature all the time. It's not until they get to be older that they get better control of their nature and it doesn't rule them as much. This is when I talked about the anima and animus. This is part of what I'm talking about. But they have to grow into that just like men have to grow into being men. Some of us, so it's like the song Coolio and the song that Coolio said, I'll see you when you get there. He said some of us got to run a little faster because we got a later start. And that's true. That's true in a lot of different ways. We all don't get to wherever it is at the same time, whether it's employment, relationships, education, home ownership, you name it. We just don't. And that has to be okay. You're not supposed to be where everybody else is. You're supposed to be where you are because that's the race that you're running. It's not it's not about exceptions. It's about where we are. The exceptions are people who have no business being where they are, and despite, like you mentioned with the gentleman in the traffic accident, David had no business getting back to where he was. That's an exception. Somebody who's paralyzed, doctor told them they couldn't walk again. They end up walking. Those are the exceptions. The rest of us, we just existing. We just existing, trying to get through to the next day. That's 98% of us, regardless of how much money you make, where you live, what you do for a living. You the person on the street who doesn't have a home, they're just trying to get to the next day. Working class family, husband and wife who might be struggling, they're trying to get to the next day. I have to ask a clarifying question when I read the statement because it sounds like you're speaking about somebody that you're intimate with. When I talk about the guy friends, I'm talking about somebody you have not been intimate with because once you do that, it clouds the judgment. And let me read the comment for people who may not have seen it. She said, Herb, that's great in a perfect world to want to vent to guy friends. But unfortunately, women get caught up with these guys who act like they have it all together. When the mask comes off, they start tripping about your male friends, accuse you of messing around, and now we have a domestic issue. See, that's why I always let me say this. I'm going to preface this by saying somebody you haven't been intimate with because they don't have anything in the situation. They have nothing to gain. They don't have anything to lose. Their focus is getting you to where you need to be mentally so you can move on. And it's not easy. Dealing with another person who might be going through something is not easy. I don't want to make it seem like it is. I generally do better than most because I'm consistently working with the public. At times, I'll deal with a person who's managing a crisis or they're in the middle of a crisis. And I'm saying, hey, look, what do you need to do first? Don't worry about all that other stuff. Get this done. Let's get you checked in. Let's get you squared away. Then you can go worry about that other stuff. Trying to do too much at one time, like David said, will stress you out. Take the things that are necessary for you to to do whatever it is you need to do in that moment. Some people, let me put it to you like this. You wake up in the morning, you running late for work, but you say, I got to get gas. What's more important, getting gas or getting to work? Now, if the gas that you don't have in your car is sufficient enough to get you to work, then yes, go get the gas. But pick up the phone. We always talk about communication. Pick up the phone and let the appropriate people know what's going on. All right. Let me read another comment by Roxanne. She says, many women have guy friends that they have never been with and don't want to. Okay. They consider him a brother. Unfortunately, many men are insecure with women having guy friends. Why is that? Something David mentioned earlier. Word may have gotten out that you deal with your male friends in an intimate way. So if that word has permeated about you, yes, there are going to be some guys that have some reservations about dealing with you in that particular way. This is why I always say, fellas, if you get down with the get down, keep your mouth closed. You don't need to be putting your business out there on Front Street. You don't need to be soiling another woman's reputation. It serves a purpose. But that's my perspective. I wish more fellas would adopt that, but hey, I'm not Caesar and I'm not in Rome.
Well, let me say this. It's a couple comments that I want to read, but then I want to add something else to it. Darren said, I forgot this is an opinion show because Herb, 98% of your comments were not based on fact. Majority of guys that listen do it in an attempt to get an end by figuring out her weaknesses through conversation. And that's true. So when women say that, come with, oh, I don't bang with girls like that. They too catty, this and that. Most of my friends are guy friends. Well, if you got 4 or 5 strong guy friends, maybe 3 or 4 want to plow you. They just trying to find a way. They just trying to find a way in. And so don't. And the same thing works with guys. If you say, man, you're around a lot of women, and they look towards you toward this male god-like figure or whatever the case is, best believe they're trying. They may not say anything, but they're trying to figure out. Damn, I wonder who's gonna luck up and get with them or whatever the case is. So again, it's all about balance. You can't have too much of anything, or it's gonna cause you issues. And we have a lot of comments coming in, and that's a good thing. But also, I wanted to take it back to like 3 things that impact women with mental health issues in relationships, and one of them is like shame or guilt. A lot of times, you have people struggling. They're struggling, and they may feel, and guys too, but we're talking about women tonight. But they may feel like, well, I don't really want to let anyone know. I don't even want my guy to know that I'm really struggling because I don't want him to view me as crazy or whatever the case is. So they're dealing with that. They're walking around with that shame, that guilt on them. And really, if you know your personnel and you know your guy and you say, I think he'll be all right, you have to talk to him and let him know, hey, I'm struggling. But we as people, our pride is to be, you can't tell nobody I'm struggling with anything, like I'm hurting, I'm struggling, because everybody walks around with their chest poked out like you're strong. But again, when you talk about that mask, Roxanne said, that shit peel off. It comes off. These masks ain't permanent. They're gonna come off, whether it's the summertime and it gets hot and it starts peeling, or the wintertime it starts cracking. Uh, it's gonna peel off. So let me see what Roxanne. There was other bunch of comments, but I just see this. So David, you proved my point to Herb. If the guy we are intimate with thinks all of our guy friends are trying to get in, what do we do? Well, I know he mentioned having at least one friend, one solid male friend, and see, and I think the issue becomes when that one opposite person. How often do you communicate with them? And that's where some of the issues fall into play with men and women. You got some guy calling all the time, and you're with your man, husband, whatever, and they're like, damn, what the hell this dude want now? What do he want now? And the same thing, vice versa. You got a woman always calling like, "Oh, I was just on the phone with such and such. She tripping about this," and you looking like, "I wish this heifer will find something else to do." But again, balance. If it's too much and somebody's doing too much, I think that's where the issue falls in, and I think this is another part of why women with dealing with mental health is different from men, because women always you always have the need, not all, but most of you have the need to talk, communicate, share with others,
Mhm.
whereas men, we don't talk to our friends like that on a regular basis. And it was just funny. I just had a conversation with one of my buddies that I started Baltimore County School with, and he was like, "You know what, Dave? We don't see each other often, and we don't talk often." He said, because we was on the phone for an hour.
Yeah,
Now, many people say, "Why the hell would guys be on the phone for an hour?" But when you professional and you kicking it and time just fly by,
yeah,
he was like, "Man, no matter what, man, no matter if we don't see each other or talk, we still pick back up like we never have done that." And I think so. It's handled differently, as far as with men and women. You always have someone you're talking to, and y'all typically talk to the same people, probably 2 3 times a day. And some of the people, the guys you're with, know. I don't know how you hold on that conversation. She's so toxic, such and such, but yeah, keep absorbing and bringing that energy in.
yep,
Keep bringing it in. Then it filters and it leaks out into the relationship,
yep,
because some of the times you're talking to the wrong people every day.
yeah,
Some of them people you could say, damn, it felt good. I ain't talked to them in like 5 or 6 months. Maybe not that long, but damn, at least go a week, a few days without talking to them, especially when they dumping negative energy on you. And all of that stuff stimulates to the mental health stuff, because a lot of times we get dumped on with a lot of other people baggage, and
hmm,
you want to be that nice person to say, "Oh, I don't want to turn my back, I really want to be there." Damn, you're not 20 no more.
right,
Some of you not 30 no more. You're 40 and 50. You can't do that. You cannot continue to do that all day every day. Some people wait. They know your schedule, and
yeah,
time you walk out of work, they
they
didn't
right
left a
there.
message or called you. Like, the fuck? Could I go home? Could I put my work bag down and sit down? Like, if that's what you want to do, then you gonna be stressed out, and you gonna have some mental illnesses coming your way. I'll leave it right there, and I'll pass the mic. I
Yeah,
don't like to talk too long. I just wanted to throw some jewels out there right quick.
absolutely. I'm going to follow Roxanne's comment up with what Darren said. Darren says he doesn't trust you, or he's speaking from experience. See, women have to understand something. It is vitally important that women understand this. When I talk about a female's reputation, the last person on the planet that's going to know about their reputation is the person who has it. You don't know what your public reputation is to other men. So if your public reputation, not your private, your public reputation has gotten out to the point where you can't be trusted, and a man is taking a flyer on you and he's getting information from another source, you got to come clean. You have to alleviate any angst that man might have about the guys that you're dealing with. And a lot of women refuse to do that. Their first thing is they'll get defensive about it or pensive, and they'll say, well, what's the difference? She's going to think I'm doing something anyway. And that's the problem. As long as you're forthright and honest with your dealings with another individual, then you have nothing to worry about. It's part of the principles of Ma'at. When they talk about your heart being feather light, that's what they're talking about. And I always tell people, as long as you're truthful, no one can use that against you. I just talked about that in my monologue about the need to be accountable. That's not something that women are pushed to do. So, as a woman who might have some female friends, excuse me, that is in a relationship and you want to keep those female friends, those male friends, because they're beneficial to you, open up, tell them that. Say, hey, look, this is who this is. This is how long I've known them. This is our friendship. This is our rapport. This is what we do. Now, you've given them all the information. It is up to that individual to either accept it as is, or to leave. You've done your part. But a lot of women won't do that. They'll hide it. Now that just adds to the insecurity. Can't play that game. Excuse me. If you want honesty, you got to give it. Just like I said, if you want that grace, got to give that grace. See, Roxanne. See, now you're taking a position that I did say, and this is part of what I'm talking about when I talk about managing a woman and her emotions. I didn't say anyone did anything. What I spoke to was clarity. I can't ask an individual about something, and then when that individual tells me, I get upset. That makes me a fool. That makes me an unbridled fool, and nobody should be around me. Because I asked a question, I got the answer, and now I don't like the answer. So I'm going to ream the person out? Oh, this is when I mentioned those things. See, I didn't see you misunderstood what I said. Let me read your comments so everybody knows what I'm talking about. Excuse me. She said, what you did was just blame the victim for the assault. Why does that woman have a bad reputation? Why can't it be that the man is insecure, unstable, and project insecurities? Where do insecurities arise from? Insecurities arise from somebody thinking they're not enough. So if you can't confide in the man that you're dating, by default, he's not enough. There's no two ways about that. If I can't talk to my brother about something, he's not enough. That doesn't mean he's not any good, but he's not enough for me to talk to him about a particular thing. And that's not wrong. Very seldomly do we talk to anyone about everything. Nobody on this planet has somebody in their life who they can talk to about anything at any time. We are all incomplete individuals on some level. This is why we eat a variety of foods, so we can get this from this food, this from this food, that from that food, and it completes us, and it's called balanced nutrition. Same thing with people. So I'm not victim blaming. All I'm simply saying is this: I don't know what my reputation is in the world among women. Why? Because I don't know who knows what about me. I, Same thing with David. Same thing with anybody else in the panel. The only way we know what our public reputation is when we go out to the public and we start asking people, "What have you heard about me?" But very few people don't want to do that because if it comes back and it's too harsh, all of a sudden you got a whole different ball game you're dealing with now. You got to deal with where did this information come from, or who said this, or what's that, and I didn't do any of that. It's like somebody once said to me, "What somebody else's opinion of you is none of your business," and that's the way I live. But I also understand that I'm not out there doing things that are going to bring some type of shame to me. And that was one of the things, and that was the silver lining in me running for public office. I tell people, you know what? My closet door is pretty much open. I talked about the one thing I did as an adult here, and it was fucked up. I almost took advantage of a female friend that was intoxicated. I talk about that, so nobody can use that against me. That's part of my public reputation. I'll take the hit for that. But a lot of people don't want to take that hit because they can't survive it. They can't deal with this. And man, listen, I can't go out there and let these people know this about me. Are you kidding me? I will never be able to show my face in public. Deal with it. Find a way to deal with it cogently so you can get on with life. I I do not disagree. But what I'm simply saying is this: we never asked, and I don't want to get into male mental health because we've already done that. But a lot of people never ask, how did those insecurities get planted in that man's mind? Nobody asked, or few people ask, have you ever had a female that has done this to you? How many times have we seen on the Maury Povich shows or all the variety of shows where a woman has lied about paternity? I've been in that situation, but I don't allow it to affect me. Now, I'm not everyone. I have a will of iron. There's a lot of stuff that I just dismiss because it doesn't bother me. Because I understand that this right here is more important than anything else that goes on out there. This is why I always tell people, go seek the truth. Engage it. I remember when I had the situation with the paternity, I went back and forth and back with people, family members, good friends. And when I say good friends, I'm speaking of people I've known for 30 years, high school, college, adulthood, party with. It was difficult for me because I had already known the answer. But I had to go through that to get to the other side. See, it's those type of things that when I plant it in a man's mind, he does not forget. He don't. It's like a broken bone. A broken bone visually looks like it was never broken, but you put that same bone under a microwave. So I'm sorry. You put that bone under an X-ray, a doctor will be able to tell you immediately if that bone was broken. And that's what we're dealing with men. So yes, men will do that. They will add stress and everything else that accompanies their insecurities. This is why I say, women, get out front. Let him know. but you have male friends in your life that you've known from the sixth grade. You go to them and talk about certain things, and if the guy asks, "Why can't you do it?" Why can't you talk to him about it? Explain to him using a little less emotion that when you two have these discussions, they always go off the rails. It's up to you two to figure out how to keep those discussions on the rails so eventually you can get to a point where you can discuss anything. And, PTS, let me put this out there. PTSD does not cover being deceived by somebody that you're dealing with in a relationship. That's not PTSD. I've been there at least 5 times. That's not PTSD. That's somebody lying. That has nothing to do with PTSD. And this is what I'm talking about. See, women don't ever have to go through that. You never will ever have to worry about somebody lying to you about paternity. Think about that for a moment. Think about the fact that a woman can lie to a man, have him rearing a kid. I'm not wrong. You can't tell me that I'm wrong because you can't definitively prove that I'm wrong. I've been lied on at least 5 times as having a child that wasn't mine. Now, if you don't think that plants them in,
Hold up. 5
Absolutely.
times, like 5 different women.
Yes.
Damn, they want you to be a daddy bad.
So this is what I'm talking about. That's not PTSD. That's somebody lying. That it's not traumatic for me. I just understand certain things. Darren, I know we're not talking about me, but I'm using me because what I'm trying to get people to understand is this. Roxanne is talking about the insecurities that men have that create mental issues for women. I agree. I'm telling you why men have these issues. Very few people talk about this. A boy that comes into puberty that has never had issues with a female lying to him, doing him dirty, he's never going to have an issue with the insecurity. Conversely, a young boy that's been done wrong, he's going to have all kinds of issues related to being secure because everything he's done, everything he's been a part of has been a lie. That's where the insecurities come from. That's why men don't function well in that realm. It's an emotional realm. Men don't do well. That's women's realm. That's why women tend to handle infidelity better than men. They're more forgiving. Why, I can't really get into it other than that fact I know. But that's what I'm saying. PTSD is a different sort of trauma. Somebody lying is just saying, hey, look.
Well, actually, that's one of the major mental health disorders that women suffer from. It's anxiety disorder, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, post traumatic stress disorder, and those are the 4 that I have.
Yeah. I'll liken it to like this. If a woman has a miscarriage, that's probably going to lead to some PTSD. I talked about postpartum. That could be labeled under PTSD. Anything that's the result of an action that's caused by something that's uncontrollable, yeah, that's PTSD. But see, this is what I'm trying to explain is it wasn't dramatic for me. It was just a aha moment. And it let me know that there are people out here in the world who mean you no good. That that's all it was for me. So now I become more keen in watching my step and watching who I deal with and how I deal with them. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that any situation I've been through has been stressful and has worn me out. Yeah, I went back and forth on the paternity thing, but that was it. The reason why I went back and forth on it because we had already dealt with the situation, and I wanted to be done with it. I didn't want to drudge up something that was 20 something odd years old. There was no need to. But in order to bring closure to it, I went through it. I'll put it to you like this: I'm going back years. We did it. We held a platform. We had, I think it was 8 guys, David, when we talked about the single mothers. It wasn't until then that people heard opinions from other men that were like myself, and that's when the reality hit the panel, and they never forgot it. I I always we always preface this by saying we are not subject matter experts. But if you talk to more men about these particular things, they will tell you how they develop the insecurities, provided that they're not going to be judged. And that's all I'm trying to get people to understand is if you want to know where something comes from, ask. Don't poo-poo the answer. Just say, okay, you know what? This is not the first time I've heard of this. Maybe I should ask more people.
Let me, Herb or Shaughnessy, for some reason I can't share it. Could y'all share the link to the show to for Anetta? She's trying to join as well. But Darren said, let's get back to the women's mental health. Yeah. So,
I guess I
and I'm
came in
gonna
at a
add,
good
hey,
time.
Shaughnessy, how you doing?
Goody, y'all.
Maintaining, just trying to chop it up a little bit. I'm gonna talk about this other point. Then I'm gonna let Shaughnessy come in. One of the other things is the codependent behaviors, like when a woman is really struggling and she relies heavily on a guy. And remember, the theme was that some guys kind of prey on weaknesses of women. So sometimes when you're in that codependent relationship and you're depending on that guy, he has a self-inflated image about himself. And it may be that shit, she ain't going nowhere. She ain't got nothing going on. She don't even go to work. She always, her her mental isn't right. So that kind of keeps the woman down, but shit, he's at a high because he probably has other things going on in his life, and I hate to shed the bad part about this, but it's real that when you depend on somebody, that's why we always talk about interdependence. Like you hold it down, they hold it down. You have your strengths, they have their weaknesses. But when you're in a codependent, when you depend on that person and you just can't get up to go to work, uh, you know, things are going on with you mentally. You can't help the kids with their homework, and he has to do everything. It's gonna go. It can go several ways, but and it depends on the nature of how that guy is built. And some guys would take advantage of that situation and use that opportunity to gain interest elsewhere, which is really gonna drive you, really have you going. Or they can be someone to say, "Shit, I got to get her right. We got to figure this out and try to get her right." So Just think about that as far as the codependent part of it when you depend on someone, and vice versa if it's a guy that, and then that adds, stress. So that person has to be able to find coping skills as well and self help to be able to maintain because they're pulling all the weight. And again, that's when we always talk about you got to have a healthy balance. If somebody's pulling all the weight, that's going to cause issues in itself too. All right, all right, all right. So that's that. What's going on, Shaughnessy? The youngest in charge. What you
Nothing.
got to say?
I want to remind everybody hormones. A lot of men, especially in this group, they like to say that it's ideal for them to date younger men. Right around 25 is typically when women deal with, or you can, mental illness or mental health really comes about in women. Um, so without a relationship, a lot of times these things occur naturally. Of course, unlike men, you have women that have hormones that are fluctuating monthly. Well, not even monthly, on a day-to-day basis,
Mhm.
on a cycle basis, every 14 days. So a lot can be said about that, and the functioning of that or lack thereof is going to alter their mental status again without relationships. Once you get into a relationship, I think the biggest thing, a lot of the times where we see, we talk about people breaking up after having children.
Yep.
Um, Men are not educated, and I'll say women as well. Men and women are not educated enough on postpartum depression and what that looks like. Um, Not only what it looks like, but how to help, how to combat, when to say, and when to decide, like, my partner needs help, or, this is beyond me and my partner needing help. This is more so something that, I need to reach out to outside sources. I need my mother and my sister to come over more often. I need to give her time alone. I need to give her time for self care as well. Um, I know you guys touched on insecurities in men, that they definitely play mind games, and I'm not saying it's one way or another. I'm just saying with women and mental health, a lot of times it brings on insecurities. What was crazy, Derek Jackson's wife, I think her name is Danae, she was
Yes.
saying how she was actually looking at tapes and looking at women that he was cheating on her with to try to mimic those women and mimic some of the things that they were doing to be desirable to her husband, when unfortunately that's not the way. Of course you want to maintain and keep your marriage, but trying to be somebody else or like somebody else is never the move. um what else about mental health in women? Of course, just like you said, the kids and bearing all the burden. A lot of the times people don't give enough credit to stay at home moms. I'm gonna tell you straight up, I love my kids to death, will do anything for them. Send me to work. Not staying home with these kids all day every day. Hell no. That job is harder than any job you can have out here on these streets. Anyone. I put any job up against being a stay at home mom. It's hard. And stay at home moms don't get enough credit. People often look at them like, what is it that you're doing? Or you're at home all day, or blah, 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 blah. No, their obligation is to get them kids straight and to get that house straight. And unfortunately, they don't have the same excuses, so to speak, as a mom that's working. Whereas though I may come home and say, hey, I don't feel like cooking. If a stay-at-home mom does that, she doesn't get the same grace as I do. Which, in all actuality, she could have had a busy day. Um, and like, kids taken out of it, I think there's a lot of social media that plays into mental health and relationships with women. You see men They say they want natural women. They say this, and I dealt with this as well. Natural, natural, natural. I want natural this. I want natural this, and not to say that you change yourself for a man. It's just you naturally as possible. You're just one of those natural females, or most of you is natural. Because I get my lashes and my nails and my eyebrows done. So, some don't consider that natural, which is fine. But then they'll go and deal with the woman that's completely opposite of you, the one that has the blue weave and the BBL and you know, all that other stuff. And it's just like, wait,
uh,
you wanted me to be natural. Or like with dressing and, how you present yourself. I want my woman to be modest. I want her to be conservative. I don't want her to look like the Kiki Palmers or the Ciaras when they go out. And come to find out, the women that you're stepping out with or you're quote unquote emotionally attached to at work is the ones that's dressed like the Ciaras and the Kiki Palmers. So a lot of that goes on too. But all in all, I would say it's most, going through and growing through certain things. I think it's most beneficial to women to get to know yourself and be happy with yourself fully and completely before you get in a relationship, so that if that person that you are with doesn't desire you or doesn't like the way that you do things with the reason, there's always room for compromise in some places. But if that man doesn't desire you and trying to change who you are as a person, leave. This is not for you. He is not for you. Maybe y'all just could be friends.
Yeah.
now, Shaughnessy said a whole lot, and I was listening. She said a whole lot that was valuable, which I think leads to this rise in anxiety. I've never, in all my years here, I hear so many times women like, well, I got anxiety. I'm anxiety ridden. That was my anxiety that was kicking in. And part of it is to do, again, remember we talked about that balance, that they may be doing too much. If
But
it,
so sorry to cut you off, but anxiety is something that a lot of us, so I didn't get diagnosed with anxiety until after I got diagnosed with postpartum depression with my second, with Layla. And the the symptoms, I was in denial that I had anxiety because the symptoms that I was suffering from were symptoms that I've had my whole entire life. Like my whole entire life I've had anxiety. Didn't know that it was anxiety. And I doubt, my parents were good parents and things of that nature. So I don't think it was neglectful on their part, but I don't think they realized it. Like I always bit my nails. I always, every time there was an issue, regardless of whether I'm a fight, regardless. If I want to fight you, I'm a fight regardless. But when there's commotion and confusion, I get to shaking. I get to shaking. But regardless of whether I beat you up or not, I'm still going to shake. That's all anxiety. And a lot of the time, just the same way they saying autism is higher now. It's not that it's higher now. It's just being diagnosed more.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
yeah. So yeah, and you right. A lot of that, a lot of it, a lot of mental illnesses and stuff that many of us may say, I know I have that, but you may not have been diagnosed by a psychiatrist or whatever the case is. But when you were saying a lot of stuff, a lot of it again deals with balance, maybe doing too much. Women are out there making just as much money as men, and then they're running around. And say if they are a single woman, running them around the sports, dance, um, all types of boy scouts, girl scouts, all types of activities, coming home cooking dinner, got to do homework or whatever the case is. And then sometimes it can be a man in the household, and sometimes he may have avoidance issues to say, shit, I'm just going to work a double or I'm going to work over so I don't have to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of all of those activities. Say if he got
Or
two
they don't
girls.
even realize, they sometimes they don't even realize that they need to be part of this project. Like
Yeah.
they don't realize that they see it outwardly, they see you doing it. They're like, oh, huh, my wife, my partner, my girlfriend is an excellent mother. She get everything controlled. So when I go work a double, I'm working a double thinking more income in the household. I'm gonna take my daughter and my wife here. I'm gonna take my sons and my daughters here. They're not actually thinking or knowing that their partner is actually struggling keeping everything up.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And sometimes women need that quiet time, that quiet space for a man to say, "Baby, I got this. I'll do
Yeah.
this. You just relax. I got this." Even if he don't cook or whatever the case is, I'm gonna take them there. We gonna bring dinner home or whatever the case. You just unwind, do something that you want to do, but not too many people are willing to do that. Uh, because y'all also had this language that, oh, you simping, you a simp, or whatever the case is. So unfortunately, that shouldn't even be the language when it's like it's a married couple or whatever the case is. But they say that about your boy Russell. That's being thrown out there all the time. So again, I think the lack of balance and not being able to have that quiet time.
And then
Some
sometimes women can be uh, just to bring the accountability to women. Sometimes they can have that partner that is willing to help or that does help, but doesn't do it like you. And because you're not gonna do the things the same way I do them, I just don't want them done.
Hmm.
And not that it's sometimes it's not it's not intentionally and it's not on purpose, but sometimes women don't realize like you're actually turning down or discouraging your help when you do tell a man everything he's doing wrong versus what he's doing right and things of that nature. I mean, and sometimes it does get to the point where you're like, bruh, because I've had it where my partner's offered to go grocery shopping. So I'm like, oh, okay. And came back in the house with Turkey Hill iced tea. Nigga, when you ever see that shit in my house? When?
What's
When
wrong with turkey iced tea? What the hell you drink?
we don't even drink iced tea in the house because that's going to have somebody ask for iced tea. And if you know my daughter, she don't need no caffeine. None whatsoever. But I don't know. It's sugar. Like it's just too much. It just I'm not saying I'm the best eater or the best dieter or whatever the case may be, but there's some stuff I just stray away from. Or it'll be let's just say it'll be 60 degrees outside, or not 60. I'll say 40 degrees outside, and you go to pick your daughter up from dance, and the girl got on Uggs, tights, and a leotard, and it's like, sir, you don't think it's cold outside with a jacket, with a dance bag? Like, so where are the things? So sometimes, women to invoke help and stuff like that, they do have to write a list. Like, these are the things that you need before you leave the house with these kids today. This is what you need to do.
Yeah, and that is helpful. Unfortunately, some guys may take it and say, "Okay, give me a list, whatever, and I,
Yeah.
I I'll figure it out." Then some guys, I don't need no damn
I don't
list,
need no
whatever.
list. I got this.
Yeah,
This is my kids
so
too.
that's a problem in itself, right there.
And
That
that's sometimes when you have to, again, you have to compromise. Like, is it gonna hurt that she's running from door A to inside your car to back in the house with the leotard,
Yep.
tights, and Uggs on?
Yep.
That's not gonna kill the child. So I'm gonna just shake my head and be like, you and your father. Or sometimes I'll give my children directions to help out. So they could say, hey, look, we supposed to do this before we do this. And it's like, oh, okay, so now in conjunction, maybe y'all could get it together.
I'm not gonna touch that. I'm gonna leave it alone.
I'm telling you, it's and I get it. Men are different creatures than women. A lot of times certain details don't matter. A lot of times they do, and it doesn't. I don't want to correlate it with being a good or bad father, like at all, because that may not be the case all the time, or is not the case all the time. When I used to pack my son's lunch, I guess for their father at the time, packing a whole entire lunch, he felt like there was too much room for error. The nigga was going back up to the school bringing the boy hot food every day. He couldn't really kind of figure out, like, oh, I want to make sure I have everything, but I want to make sure he have a good lunch. I don't know how to do it how you do it, so I'm gonna just bring him food. And it's just like, no, you don't have to struggle like that. So it's compromise and things on both sides that may need help, and sometimes you don't realize you need that help.
That happens. That happens often, and the reason why I said I wasn't going to touch the comment is because it strikes of being a helicopter parent. The only difference is you're being a helicopter parent to an adult. Like you said, men and women have their ways of doing things, and in order for there to be harmony, one has to accept that there's always more than one way to do something. And I'm not going to jump down somebody's back for doing something different so long as the job is done. And I think that's where the difference comes in is what is what needing to be done getting done. If it is, I don't care how you do it. And you have a lot of people who are sticklers for certain things. And because they do that, they create, just like you said, they create more work for themselves because somebody's not doing it the way they want to do. This is what I was trying to say earlier with the difference between errors and somebody doing something intentional to cause pain. That's why I was trying to make the
Right,
distinction
right.
between a lie and PTSD. You have people who are out here running amok in the dating world because they're trying to cause people pain. That's where the PTSD comes in. And then you just have people who are just terrible at dating and they do things and somebody suffers because of it. That's not PTSD. Somebody standing you up on a date might cause you some anxiety on the next one you get because you don't know if you're going to get stood up or not. But that's not PTSD. That's not something you're going to have to go pay a psychiatrist to sit down and figure out. They can say, hey, look, you got stood up. You're not the first. I'll be the last. Get on out the door. Go get back in the game and play. Then you might have somebody who picks you up on a date, slips something in your drug, and next thing you know, you're in the hospital. That's PTSD. There are differences. So we have to acknowledge that. What women go through versus what men go through, depending on what's done, absolutely. And women, more than likely, depending on who they are and where they come from, are going to have to deal with that. Because as I pointed out at the top of the broadcast with the pyramid, they have more to lose with their bad decision. If a man has a kid out of wedlock, he might get hit with some child support, might get arrears, might go to jail, might lose his license. Women, like you said, postpartum, that ball game changes. You got a whole different thing to deal with in addition to another person. So all of that starts to come out of it. All of the PTSD, the postpartum, where to live at, how am I going to afford this, all of that now starts to get piled into play and is compounded. Because in order to deal with one thing, you have to deal with them all. And you have to deal with them all soon enough so they don't become overwhelming. So I completely understand, and I'm not trying to minimize anything. I just want people to understand the difference between the two.
Wow. So that was a lot. Yeah, I was throwing punches out there like Bud Crawford and shit. But damn. Okay. So let's look at or talk about, and we kind of talked about this. How can men be more supportive? And one
It's
of
a
the
twofold. Go ahead. Go ahead.
and one of the things is just understanding the diagnosis of what's going on, because a lot of times, we all are dismissive if we're not suffering from it or whatever the case. Oh, your ass just doing this. You try to wave it off, whatever. You crazy. You ain't that damn crazy, or whatever the case is. You just, you just, you just never know. But I guess you have to try to be more uplifting and be more positive to kind of try to get to that end goal. Because most of the time, you could say if you're a man and your woman's she's not on point and she's off, you need her. You need her to get to the cross line, to the finish line, and it would behoove on you to say, "Damn, what role could I play to get her right?" Because if she's not right, more than likely the kid's not right, and that's gonna impact school or whatever. So it's all gonna filter down. So to have a dismissive and non-supportive attitude, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work unless you just truly don't care. Like, well, I go to work, I make my money, I'm good, whatever. Nothing else matter. But if that's the case, even for women, if that's his approach, then you have to look at yourself and look at the situation. So that's one thing. Again, you got to research like some of the things that you need to do. And some guys, man, I ain't got time to do all that, whatever.
Yeah.
She just need to get her shit together. You know, she not working right now. I gave her that period not to work, but now shit, this shit's starting to be a burden on me. So she need to get it right, or I'm gonna be out of here, or she got to go, or so. These are these are the type probably the type of conversations that's happening, and of course, be a good listener. We talk about all the time. Communication, being a good listener. I always, throw that research out there that women speak. What is it? 20,000 words a day, and guys may speak 7,000. And sometimes, guys feel like, okay, it got to be a shortcut way for these women to tell these stories, because I don't have that to do because I've been listening to people all day at work. So now I want to watch my sports center or get caught up on this and that, and she's trying to vent about something going on in her day. Where do you draw the line?
But that's when you have to carve out the time. And I think we spoke about it before. Whereas though partners that go home to each other, whether they speak multiple times a day, um, I find that kind of gives a little bit more opportunity for when you get home and you want to decompress and you want to go to your corner. You've already heard most of the problems in my day because I can reach out to you during the day. And that's not always possible for everybody. People have different jobs, different things that they do throughout the day. So that's not always possible. But something that I have done in my current relationship is when we sit down, we're done with the kids, we're done with whatever days, asking the question, are you okay? And that's an open-ended question to say, you know, physically you may be okay. The day may not have been a bad day, but are you okay? What are some things that's, you know, bothering you, or what right now, if the world would be perfect, what could change? Having those conversations with your partner is just it is vital. It's important. And making sure that, you are that support system. You guys are each other's support system. And when you do need that help or that reassurance or that sounding board, you have that, and you have the opportunity just to simply say, hey, are you okay?
Yeah. And that type of language is, it's beneficial. It shows empathy, concern. But again, you always gotta worry about. Again, we always talk about know your personnel. So I guess what approach you could take, because you can ask somebody, "You good? You okay? Don't I look fucking good? What you fucking mean?" Or you're gonna have some pushback from people. But again, I guess if you kind of know what makes somebody tick, you know how to kind of ask the question, or how to. I guess sometimes you have to dance around certain things with people, even though you may
Yeah.
not want to. But if you're in a long-term relationship, you may say, oh, "I better hold on. Let me take a deep breath before I
Yeah.
ask this question,
Hmm.
because I know how she or he's gonna take it." So we live in we got a lot of complexities to deal
Right.
with when you
Everybody
think
has
about
their
all of this stuff. There's no for all the people who go around and talk about their stuff is perfect and all that stuff. I don't believe you. I think you're lying.
right.
But hey, you may dispute that. But also, I forgot. I always like to give a shout out to my hometown people that join. I don't know if you're on here anymore, but shout out to Nuki for coming through. I seen your comments. I didn't know it was you, but thanks Nuke for stopping in.
Okay. Rubber
But
rouser she
yeah,
is.
so it's a lot. You have to,
Knowing your personnel is
yeah,
definitely important, especially, and I say especially with men, because sometimes it's not just a are you okay? Sometimes you have to ask direct questions like, hey, did you speak to such and such? Did you speak to such and such? Like just recently, I didn't realize that there was a contention between my partner and his female friend. I just was like, hey, have you spoken to such and such lately? Because I hadn't heard her name. I hadn't heard, oh, such and such said, hey, like I didn't hear any of that. So I'm like, well, have you spoken to such and such? And it'd been like 3 weeks, and he's like, man, she mad at me because of such and such, and because I told him he could come, and I told her she couldn't come, blah blah blah. Then I get the whole entire story.
Now let me
So
jump
now,
in here for a hot second, Shaughnessy, and let
mhm,
me ask you a question. How do you know about this individual?
we are around each other a lot.
Was this information disclosed to you
What you mean?
about your mate's friend, the female?
Like, did I know her, or what do you mean?
Did you know of her? And
Yeah,
when
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've always known of her.
and see, this is what I was talking about earlier with getting ahead of these type of things and putting it out there. But for women to do it, it eliminates any insecurities that a man might potentially have. See, there's always a reason why I say something that people always want to poo-poo as if the man don't know what he's talking about. Been there, done that. I know what a lot of men deal with, and I know why they deal with them. So when I say something like that, that's what I mean.
What I'm lost. I don't know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
earlier you weren't. I don't know if you were listening then, but what I was saying is women and nobody for this matter, but we're talking about women, knows of her public reputation. So if a woman's reputation is she deals with her male friends intimately, and a guy's willing to look past that and date her, that's always going to be in the back of his head. So in
Oh
order
yeah,
for so in order for her to eliminate that, she needs to disclose all her relationships she has with males. Done.
yeah,
Over.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because if my male friend that lives out of town, I actually have somebody that I went to high school with that his family is from down here. So when there's like family reunions and things like that, he'll hit me up like, "Hey, what's the move?" or "Can you link this weekend?" And then you don't want nobody to give you the side eye, so you have to know who this person is, and at least once you have to be able to meet him. And now I'm not saying that that's a foolproof way, because people are treacherous and they will have you meet and shake hands with somebody that they're dealing with, but that brings forth a certain level of comfort.
Right. That's
The
it. That's
friend
all
that
I'm
I'm
saying.
Yeah, the friend that I'm talking about, like she's always been around, she's always been, you know, his friend. Yeah, like there was never, like I never questioned their relationship or have no question or feelings about their relationship. They are truly friends, and I believe that they are truly friends. Now, have I ever asked the question, have they ever dealt with each other? I don't think so. But I will say this, based on how they conduct themselves around me, based on what they do and don't do, I'm completely comfortable with their relationship. So if it's 1 o'clock, it's 1 a.m. in the morning, and she calls his phone and he doesn't answer the first time, and she calls his phone again, I'm be like, I think you should answer the phone. I'm gonna say answer the phone for her, because that is, that type of friend. She
Right.
could be calling him for anything. She could be calling you because she's on the side of the road. She could be calling you because, and she is I wouldn't say, yeah, she's a single dating woman. So, anything could happen. And there was a time where, her car broke down or whatever the case may be. So he did go pick her up that night. And then he did go pick her up, drop her son off to daycare, drop her off to work. And things like that. But because they are friends and the magnitude of their friendship it's never an issue. There's times where he's like, "Oh, I'm going over to Tasha's house." I don't have to go, because nine times out of ten, it's not just him and her. It's different friends. It's other male friends, and she just, unfortunately, most of the time she is the female of the group. And every time I'm not available to come, and I'm not gonna always come with you to Tasha's house. I'm not babysitting nobody. But again, I'm comfortable with the relationship. There's times that she's called me directly. I'm pretty sure he talks to me about her. I mean, talks to me to her. Talks about me to her. But again, that's not something that I feel badly about or feel any type of icks about.
Yeah. And see, this is what I was talking about earlier, people. You see it, you've heard it live in full effect. The value of having somebody around you of the opposite gender that you have not been intimate with, and how it benefits the person. That's all I was trying to say. Nothing more, nothing less.
Absolutely. I think I said it before. Even there's some male friends that I have that I may confide in, and they may tell me, they may say, "No, you're tripping. Like, you're acting crazy. You leave that man alone." And you need that opposite sex's opinion, especially if it's not malicious.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So one of the other things is it get to be some points in time that men just can't take it anymore with these issues that's going on, and they're ready to leave the situation. So that's a part of it too. And some of it is man may not be used to that caregiver role
Mhm.
like full time. Like, damn, I got to do this. I got to do that. I didn't work 50, 60 hours. I still got to figure out meal planning. I had to run there, run here. Like, man, and and they, they'll talk to, and depending on their age level, say if it's somebody in their late 20s, early 30s, and they talking to an older guy. And they're like, man, you need to get you another. You need to make it easy over there, Holmes. You ain't supposed to be going through all that.
Yeah.
And he's hearing this stuff, and he's working with older people. And say, for example, if he don't have male figures in his life, that may be a part of his thought process. Like, damn, like for real. Like, yeah, man, you shouldn't be having to do all that. She better get her shit together, man. You ain't got to deal with that, man. You bringing home such and such this young blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I may be making it comical, but this is like real talk and real conversations that some guys may hear and may say, damn, okay, this OG said this. Man, I ain't about to. So suddenly the rope or the leash is shortened because now they start thinking, it's planted in their head like, yo, man, I need an easier way. This is too much work. But then again, unmet needs. She may say, I don't feel like it. I'm not trying to do anything. I don't want to be touched or whatever the case is. I'm too tired. And he went like, damn, like, what's up with that? Like,
Oh yeah, because Herb wants the human sex toy. I forgot. I
Who,
forgot
Herb?
about that. Mhm.
you said the human sex story. Did I miss that one? I must have. Was that when my system went out? I didn't hear about that one.
No, it was a post that I think he posted either today or yesterday, where there was a video of a woman preparing or starting to prepare breakfast, and she tried to hug the man, and he basically mushed her in the forehead. And I'm pretty sure it was a comical skit, but mushed her in the forehead, and it was basically because and it says something about when your partner tries to act like everything is okay after she denied you last night. And Herb saw a problem with that, but there could be many reasons why she didn't want to have sex that night. And just because you're denied at one point or at one time doesn't mean that y'all are beefing or y'all in contention.
All right, let me respond to that. Oh, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was Darren said, how does that help the woman's mental health? It may not help, but talking about why men leave, but it's reality
Right.
that you know that if you're a woman and you're suffering that one of the consequences may be he may leave
Yeah.
eventually. That's real. This ain't fairy
Especially
tale.
if he doesn't know the ways that he can help, or he may feel like, because there are men that step up and say, you know what, I realize that she's struggling in this area. I realize from her going from work to dance to basketball to home, these are things that, she's struggling with. And then he tries to dig in and he tries to help. So maybe when they come back from extracurricular activities, he made a meal and it's spaghetti again. Maybe that's his best dish. Maybe that's what he can cook. And then you have women that are not accepting of those things. So no matter what the man does or no matter what the man gives, it's never enough. And sometimes as women, we have to decide what's worth beefing over, picking your battles. Just like I said, with the you knew enough that she had to have on Uggs. She has on tights. She has on a leotard. The girl out here pretty much naked. However, is she going to hurt from this? It's not an argument that I'm going to bring up. It's not.
And I think that's the ultimate goal when there's children involved. Is my actions, is this in the best interest of the child?
Yeah.
Right. And is the
that's the
child
first thing you have to
happy?
think about.
Is the child happy is also the thing, because I know that sometimes, oh, well, he wasn't hungry, so we just had Cold Stone. That child, that daughter, that they're not going to die from a night of ice cream and being not being hungry, but being fed ice cream one night a week
Yeah.
in a month. That's not going to hurt. So why make that a big issue within the household, especially if you know he can help you, versus just realizing where your knowing your personnel, knowing where your partner will thrive, and knowing where your partner could help you. Like,
So
Yeah.
I was reading Darren's comment. He said couples counseling. Let me let
definitely.
you in a little secret on that. You have to have
There's no
willing
secret.
participants
Right.
in that.
True.
If both is not willing, counseling don't mean shit. Unless, and that's the thing I keep saying. Even I'm in the educational counseling field, and one of my guy teachers I had told, he said, "Man, you know what? I've learned and listened to you." I said, at this stage of the game, I don't go chasing kids and looking in their face if they got problems. The ones that won't help, they know where to find me, and they'll keep coming and they'll keep coming back because I'm giving them something to hold on and giving them hope. The one, if you got to go chasing and chasing people or make something mandatory, that's why like drug and alcohol, like, oh, you're mandatory to go to drug and alcohol counseling. Most of the time that shit don't work because it's mandatory and people may not be at that point right there. So it
And
all
sometimes it
depends
can
on
strike.
that person if they're ready to receive counseling or go to counseling.
Right. And I know there was a time where when me and my kid's father first separated, he did have a mandatory counseling that he had to do. And he wanted me to come to one of the counselors. I was like, hell no. Hell to the no, no, no. For what? I saw it. The way I saw it was, you're trying to get me back. And now maybe that was half of the goal, but the other half of the goal where I missed at that time, just simply not knowing, because I was stuck on the part of he's trying to get me back. Having that counseling during that time probably would have made us a lot better co-parents, regardless of what
Yeah.
came
I
out in
mean,
the end. Because regardless of whether you do wrong or whether you do right, people need understanding. And that's something that I
yeah.
say I don't regret leaving. I don't regret going our separate ways, but I do regret not going to those counselings, because I really do think that would have definitely changed the co-parenting relationship, and it would have allowed me more insight on his thought process going forward, and what he needed going forward. Because yeah, we're separating. He was dead wrong. He did wrong, but now he's having the traumatic experience, which is on him, but he's having the traumatic experience of not waking up to his children every morning. So I'm dealing with the breakup of relationship as he's dealing with the breakup of relationship, but he's the one that caused this, and he's the one that has to deal with this trauma as well.
Now let me jump in here, and because I said I'd answer the question if she came on the panel, I'll answer the question regarding the skit. I personally, in a
Oh yeah.
relationship, have never been turned down for sex. Now I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to get booed for this, and that's okay. I'll take this shot from the squad. If you were out and a man touched you inappropriately, does your man get to say, "I don't feel like defending you tonight"?
Oh my gosh, Herb, I know you didn't.
I'm asking. I'm asking. I said I was going to play devil's advocate, and I said I wasn't going to be
Oh my
liked
god.
for it.
No, that's
I,
not an option. That's not an option. That's very
so
different.
you're not in a position to tell
Mm-mm,
a man what's different.
mm-mm.
If I have to risk my well-being, I want the bonus hole when I want the bonus hole.
So let me ask you a question. Is your
Sure.
woman allowed to not be tired?
That has nothing to do with it. I don't force myself on somebody. So, and I've had that situation happen. We're going to sleep. She said, "You know what? I don't feel like it tonight. I'll let her sleep." However, that information was disseminated beforehand. See, what you have a lot of women that do is they try to play that game, and most
Oh, you
men
talking
will
about
go,
the holding out game, like because I have
yes,
an attitude. Okay, okay.
yes.
So
BGS just beat me to it. I was just getting ready to say that women will do that, and the moment he steps out, there's a problem. This is what Kevin Samuels used to always talk about when he
I
said
agree with
men and
that to
ops.
a certain. So when when we're talking about the holding out game,
Mhm.
are we saying that these are two people that are function like they're speaking to each other?
Yes, they're in a committed relationship. She
Yeah, but
just
just because you're in a committed relationship doesn't mean that all issues get in as they should, but that doesn't mean each and every time you guys have contention all issues get resolved right then and there. So let's just say we do make that mistake, or we are humans and we go to bed with an issue that's unresolved, and it was something that you did to me, or something that I did to you. Don't you dare tap me on my shoulder and let's pretend that everything is okay and let's have sex. That's when things get swept under the rug. That's when things don't get handled. That's when there's opportunity for the same mistakes to continue. So a lot of times you need resolution in these areas. But I do see what you're saying as far as the holdout game. I do think that's whack. Like, yeah,
but
because you're gonna be mad when a nigga goes somewhere else to get some. So the goal is resolution, but it doesn't necessarily all the time have to be a quote unquote holding out game. It could be you're tired. It could be that you don't feel well. It could be maybe she's suffering from endometriosis um endometriosis and sex is painful for her, or those things are painful for her. So I don't think every denial of sex is always a cause for contention. Now if this is happening often, if you 5 for 10, then yeah, there's an issue there. But if if
ah,
9 out of 10 times, if 9 out of 10 times you try to get some and you get some, then I don't see an issue with that.
oh, I'm not. I personally, I'm not saying it's an issue. I'm just saying there are men out there who are in what they call sexless marriages, and for the sake of peace and financial security, they endure. Me
Yeah, if
personally,
y'all not having sex, y'all might as well just go ahead and cut ties if that's the. But the way I read the skit was this was a one night situation. She got up. It appeared that she's making breakfast for them and not just her. Now, if I deny you of sex, then I get up in the morning and I make me some breakfast, and I get dressed and I go out and run my errands and I don't say a word for you. Yes, have a problem with me. Yes, absolutely. But the holdout game is weird. I don't get the, like, resolve the issue. Resolve the issue.
yeah. Um, right.
Ronell. Ronelli.
Her and Rox, I'm gonna read both of the comments. Rox says, "I don't play the hold dog game. I'm gonna have sex mad, and we still gonna talk about the issue later." And Radiant Rose says, "Grandma's always told me, make your concerns known in bed. Usually, you get what you want. The art of negotiating is something that
Now,
is lost."
negotiation is a thing too,
Yes,
because yeah, negotiation is a thing too. I am a set your alarm for 3 a.m. person. Cause listen, if I'm up for 24 hours and I don't went from work to school to dealing with kids, I done got in the shower and I done ate, I done had my glass of wine. You're gonna have to give me a 2 hour nap, sorry. Or it's giving starfish.
It reminds me
You
of
choose.
the one I posted in the group where the guy actually took on the role of the starfish. He just laid there.
Like, do you want starfish or like what?
Oh my gosh!
Oh
It
shit.
depends on the guy. Because the funny thing is, I rarely sleep through the night, so I'm always cognizant that if I'm laying in the bed with my significant other, I'm not gonna wake her up because I want it. I'm just like, you know what? Let it be.
Why not?
Because I my sleep patterns are beyond fucked up. If I sleep more than 4 hours at a time, it's a miracle. Like either it's a miracle or I'm dead tired. Because my sleeping patterns have always
Right,
been
right.
fractured. Like I'll get home from work in summertime, I get home about 7:30, 7:40. Bump around, do something. 9 o'clock, I'm asleep. Between noon and one, I'm up. Running errands. I gotta start working out
And
again.
that's
Running errands,
workers
whatever
overnight.
the case.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So that's what it is. So
right.
I'm always cognizant of that. That whoever I deal with is probably not on my wavelength. So I always have to keep that in mind and in consideration. I wake up in the middle of the night twice. I remember going out of town for one of our
Right, right.
basketball tournaments, and I went to sleep at 11 o'clock because I knew we were gonna have to get up early to get our move on things because we had games like 9 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, I'm wide awake. So I start
Mm-hmm.
packing, take a shower, go get gas. I'm at the other hotel because I had to stay across town. We were in Pittsburgh, and they weren't even up. So I sat in the car.
Mm-hmm.
But that's me understanding, you know, where I am in my life. But and this is the thing that age and wisdom brings a lot of guys that they just don't grasp it. It's like BGS says, men have to learn to control their want, and for a lot of men, that doesn't come until realistically they hit about 35 if they're not married.
Right.
So if you're dealing with a man, if you're a man and you're 35 and you're not married, and you out there and everything's correct, you still pushing sex, sex, sex. No matter how you getting it, as long as you get it, that's your goal. Because I'm working, I'm knocking down hours, my bank's right, I can go here, I can do this. I'm getting what I want. And that's just how they're driven. But, and I stress, but if you're on the opposite side of that and things are consistent, you'll forgo sex for a week if that's going to keep the harmony in the home.
Oh hell no.
Hold
So
on, hold on. I'm saying for a man, if everything is running right in the home,
okay, okay. And y'all not in contention and this is
yeah,
not something frequent. I got you.
kids kids are getting here. This is getting here because believe it or not, and I know people are going to say this is blasphemous. There comes a time when men just say, you know what, I just want to sleep. But when a man does that, it's assumed that he's doing something that he has no business doing. It's not assumed that you know what, things ain't firing right. I'm tired. I I ain't in the mood. Heaven forbid for a man to say he ain't in the mood. That's you know. What do you mean you ain't in the mood? What, you're a guy. I had a female say that to me. I'm like, what the? Okay, and
But see, I feel like, even on this topic too, it's I guess it's a know your personnel again kind of thing,
yeah,
because
always.
to me, if you feel like, I don't know how to explain this without it sounding rapey. Um,
Rapey.
I,
Rapey.
I don't want it to sound rapey, but if you know for a fact, if you can identify, like, I know that she has had a long day. I know that, the probability of me getting some tonight is probably 0 to 20%. You might have to do the work that night. I might have to come out the shower and the candle was lit, the the wine is already poured, and it's just like, oh damn, I'm gonna have to at this point, because I'm gonna feel bad otherwise. That's one. Two, if you know your partner and it's like, I definitely want to get one off tonight. I definitely want to do this tonight. Get your partner in the mood. It could start off as a no. It could end differently.
you have, and it's like you said. It's like
Without
you said.
sounding rapey.
No,
It
no.
can
I'm
start
saying what you
off
said. You
as
said
a
you got to
no.
know your partner, and that's
Right.
and because a lot of people, doesn't matter what their relationship is, a lot of people don't do those type of things. They don't explore, they don't investigate. It's just vanilla sex, and that often leads to discontent. When a woman will say, "Well, he's not romantic. It's just wham bam, thank you, ma'am." Well, what's romantic? We've never Romance has never been a problem before, but now it is. Why does it become a problem now? And it never has been. Well, it's always been a problem, but you've never said anything, and that's when the contention starts. And I always try and preface to people, hey, look, it's inevitable. But the thing that people need to sit down and talk about is what their expectations are going to be now and going forward, and what they would like. Because ultimately, you would think the more time two people spend together, the more they're willing to explore. And you have some people it's just the opposite. They'll do all this stuff beforehand, and they get to a certain point, and it's just like, okay, I don't want to do any of that. And you look at them like, what? We used to swing from the chandeliers. We used to have hanging apparatuses and do this. We used to, for those of you to whom this applies, we used to go to sex clubs. We don't do any of that anymore. Well, I'm a mother, so now I don't do all of that. Oh man, you don't pull the plug out the tub and all the water going. You want me to take a bath with no water? Oh, I can't do that.
Well, some people attention span is short. That after a while they say, "Hey, I want to try to do that with other people."
Thank you for doing this, Jan. Appreciate it. All the comments. Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't even say that. It's just, you have to know the person that you're with, and if you want what you want, you have to, especially if you're in a long-term relationship, you have to be willing to do what you got to do. If you know you have a better chance or a better opportunity of catching me at 3 a.m. than 12 a.m., then what's the problem with it?
oh,
If you know you're gonna catch me right before I wake up, what's the problem with it? That's, to me, that's better than denial.
Well, and I think that has a big part of, again, knowing your personnel, that you kind of know like when the best time. You kind of can look at body language and the attitude to say, it ain't the right time, but I know um, if I try this at this time, I'm gonna have a higher success rate.
yeah.
Right.
And
Or like, for me and my partner too, if we're out and about and we bar hopping, or we're out with friends and we drinking and stuff like that, if you see me and I'm not drunk, but you see him start to take drinks and like, oh no, she good, that's because that nigga trying to get lucky tonight and he don't want me drunk. That's what that is. So just like you said, know your personnel. You done had 4 shots, you done. You
Yeah.
good. You good.
And we
Cause
talk.
you're not about to get out the shower and start snoring on me. No way. You're cut off.
And this is part of what we talked about last week with submission. It works both ways. A lot of women tend to look at submission as only one way, and sometimes because you're in a relationship with an individual that knows you and knows your proclivities, they say, we're pulling the plug on that. That's it. We shut it down.
Right. And I'm being
and
like, oh dang, I promise I'm not gonna get drunk. I promise I'm not gonna get drunk.
woo. At this particular point, it doesn't necessarily become about what he wants. It's a balance, and we always,
Right.
we always try to keep a balance between the two entities. Because when you do, things never get too far to the left or too far to the right to where you can't come back to the common
Ground, right.
yeah, the common ground of what the relationship is supposed to be. And that's why a lot of divorces are occurring. This women will say they're not happy. We're not happy about what? Steve, matter of fact, Beyonce mother getting divorced.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Now,
gosh, I can't even remember the skit, but I know he looked at her like she was crazy.
the interview, the interview
Yes.
that she embarrassed him on national
What
TV.
did she
Yeah,
say? What was said? I can't even remember.
it's not even it was something regarding about either how she treated him or him being any good around the house or something to that extent. But
Okay.
me, I'm a different type of cat. I'd have got my little happy ass up, drop the mic, and say, I'm out.
Dang, in front of company. Well, she embarrassed him in front of company, but
Okay. No,
oh
she
Lord.
embarrassed him on national television. The
Right,
hell,
right, right.
company?
Yeah. Company is company. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I can't remember the all that happened in the interview, but I was just like, dang, I did agree with the masses and saying, yeah, they was definitely gonna get a divorce. That wasn't gonna work for long. But
There's,
again,
there's just some things that you just hey,
yeah,
keep to yourself, or keep.
right,
It's like we were told when we were kids. Hey, look, what happens in this house?
right,
Stays in this house, and I think she didn't get that lesson when she was coming up, or maybe she just threw that lesson
absolutely.
in the garbage.
Oh, she said he wasn't perfect.
Yeah, but
And I
the
mean, there's a way to say that. There's a way to say, or I mean, we're humans. I don't think that has to be said that you are not perfect. We know that there's no perfect human being, so um, yeah, she could have kept that to herself.
Yeah, that's just
Like,
stupid.
or she could have said, "Oh, we are not perfect."
but this
That
is
would
but
have
this
been a
is
better statement. We are not perfect, but we make things work, or we figure out how to come to a common ground. Not a he's not perfect, because
Sound
you
like
ain't.
but
she got a rebound person. Because where
well,
the
no,
hell is
this
she
is the
going?
thing. It is akin to what BGS just said. First Lady or former First Lady Michelle Obama, when her and Barack went to marriage counseling, she is quoted as saying, "Can you fix him? He's broken." The marriage counselor turned around and said, "You have flaws too," and she couldn't say anything. This is what you have with, and I'm specifically going to mention black male and female relationship dynamics, is that for a long time, black men didn't have a right to contest anything in a marriage. It was you take this and you like it. That's changing. This is why you see the excuse me, the rise of passport bros, monk mode, all the red pill, and we're gonna get into that um some other time because there's a lot of women that despise the manosphere, whether it's the black manosphere, white manosphere, excuse me, and red pill content. Ooh, excuse me. Them chips and salsa, boy. Wow. They say it's bad, nothing good comes of it. I beg to differ, but like I said, we'll get into that on another show. But these are the things that men are starting to speak to now. So it's a long time coming.
Let's see. Let's see. looking at some of the comments. Said, boom, David, he was after her for years. I only see memes of this whole situation, so I didn't even follow it.
I knew she threw crazy shade. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but she definitely threw crazy shade. And I will say that is the reason why men don't typically like to deal with high powered women, because there is an ego that comes along with it. Um, and that I guess you can say submission does fail, but it's too often that people look at submission in the wrong way. They feel submission is me not having a voice, or submission is me not being in control. But in every team, there has to be a captain. There has to be somebody that calls the plays. There has to be somebody that is willing to learn and listen. Everybody has to be willing to teach, learn, and listen.
One thing for people who automatically dismiss that they don't have a wide world perspective on anything, they kind of locked in on the negative aspect of it instead of understanding that that word means it could be different to every different situation, to every
Right.
different unique, different
Yeah.
situation. That your this person's situation may be different than yours, and you may know how your situation roll, and you're like, yeah, he's submissive with me. We both. That's how we do. We good at that. And I think people just get stuck in one mode and say, oh, this is what this word means, and this is what I accept. No, I don't tolerate that. But they're being submit like we talked about last week. They're being submissive in so many different ways on a daily basis. But I
Mhm.
guess uh, being that way towards your man uh, doesn't mean anything. Now, and again, it depends on that individual. He has to warrant and earn that type of response from a woman. And if he
Mhm.
can't, then that's different. Then you have to question yourself: Why am I here?
Hmm.
Right. And then
Why am
you
I
have to
here?
understand there's a lack of respect there too, because just like I said, I don't think submission is always one way. There are times where sometimes the male has to play the role of, you know what, I do feel that she is more versed in this area than I am. So I'm just going to let her quarterback this situation, or let her call the play on this. Now, just because I'm calling the play this time does not mean that I have to belittle you in that moment, because especially let's say with I don't know, let's just say there's something, I don't know, let's just say my father ran a landscaping business. So when it comes to these lawnmowers, these weed eaters, these fertilizers and everything, I know everything about it. I'm not going to get in front of company and men or at Home Depot and be like, no, 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 he doesn't know what it is. I know. Let me tell you. No, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tap you. I'm going to whisper to you and let you know, hey, we should get this, or we should do this. And this is why. But I ain't going to tell you in front of another man to belittle you. I'm going to tell you in secret or between me and us. And it's going to look like you changed your mind. Like, no, matter of fact, I'm going to do this. But just because, you're the man, everything you say is no, because why would I let you purposely or intently make a mistake or do something that's not in the best interest for our lawn? If I know better, then I should let you know what that is, but it's a way to go about it as well.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's true. And it's about humility and time and situation. And it's all about building each other up. When you're in a relationship and you're trying to tear each other down, sooner or later somebody has to be the bigger person to say, "Yeah, we got to walk.
Hmm.
This ain't working." And even though sometimes if it's kids involved, you have to think what's the best interest of the child? Like
Yeah.
we here fighting and carrying on. It's mental and physical. One of us we need to walk away, and then maybe time away may bring you back together or realize there's not no greener pastures out there, and I want to be back with my family or whatever the case is. But sometimes you need that time to clear your head.
Yeah, and sometimes it is right. Because I know we live in a world of let's resolve and communicate things right now, but sometimes some issues need to be tabled. Sometimes you're upset, I'm upset, and maybe this happened yesterday, but we're still well in it. Our emotions are still well in this. Maybe we need to talk about this. If it's Wednesday, maybe we need to talk about this on Friday. We both know that, this is an issue. We're going to move past this issue, but right now we can't figure out how to do it. We're not agreeing to disagree. That may not be what we come to in the end, but right now, neither one of us or one of us can't deal or can't effectively emotionally get over this situation.
And I think part of it is, and we talked about this before, that a lot of times we don't have no escape route. Like people don't have nothing that they can kind of delve into to bring them peace and say, all right, I'm good now. We could go back and have this conversation, whether it's just leaving, getting your earbuds, your phone, and going for a long walk or a bike ride or something, or reading. Some people might read the Bible, the Quran, or something. Watch a Sports Center, something to come back to the conversation and say, "All right, you ready to talk? All right, let's finalize this and have this conversation." And a lot of times, people don't have that something that kind of soothes them um, and kind of put them in the right mental space as well. And I'm not saying this as like I'm a damn expert because I could be a jerk at any given moment, but I know that certain things, like I'm not about to try to do anything that's going to lead me that some cops go come and handcuff me or whatever the case is, or have trouble at the job that you lose your livelihood and things of that nature. But again, we know that's some people don't can't cope, and that's about mental health and how they handle situations that they'll give it all up behind some old crazy shit. You like, well, why? Like for what? Like why? Why did you do that?
There's a movie with Nicolas Cage. I don't know. I think the movie's got to be about 15, maybe 20 years old, called Family Man. Watch it. It speaks to just what Shaughnessy was talking about in terms of the man and not his shortcomings, but him trying to balance uh, married life and having kids. Just to give a quick synopsis of the movie. Nicolas Cage was a very well-to-do businessman, sporty life, single, no kids, and he meets a guy who I don't know if he gave him a wish or something like that. He did him a favor, bought a lottery ticket, broke up a potential bad situations, I would say, and the reward was he got to switch life. So he went from being a single guy to a married guy with kids and was completely clueless. Had no idea because he's still the single guy, but physically he's the married man. So watch that movie and think about what we discussed tonight.
All right, yeah. So we definitely covered a lot, and at this point, I'm ready to get some closing comments because it's in full throttle now. Back at the schoolhouse, everybody woke up and realized school is coming in a few weeks. Rolled off the damn couch and said, "Hey, I realize the summer is over." And you would think some parents would be happy as hell counting down the days after the summer. But some of them still stuck and don't realize it. Now it's that time that now I really got to work this summer, these next couple
I was
weeks.
just about to say, yeah.
Summer is a vacation for parents too.
I don't know anything about that. Sorry.
Definitely a vacation. You don't have to worry about. You don't always have to worry about getting kids up early, like in summer camp.
Oh, okay. You can sleep in other words.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you don't have to worry about doing homework every night, checking homework every night.
Okay.
But then
Summer is a
again,
different ball game.
it ain't. It's still not the same day and age that. Well, I know in our era, we was growing up, that you had people knocking at the door at 9, 10 in the morning. You went outside, you was kind of gone, only to come in to get something to drink, to eat something, and you was back at it. These kids, a lot of them,
Yeah.
don't go anywhere. They're in the house all the time, unless you got everything planned, like different camps and stuff like that. And even
Oh
these
yeah, y'all
camps, they
definitely
trying to
go to
charge
camps.
arm and leg for that, because they realize what's going on too, and say, oh, we could charge top dollar for this because these parents
Child
under
care.
yeah. So what do you do? Whatever. I mean, I guess if you only got one or two and they kind of quiet and they do their own thing, but then there's some people who have 5 or 6 little crumb snatchers, all pretty much stair steps, around the same age, and they have to deal with that. So it begins to be a lot. So any old ways, somebody just came in with a comment. He said, "Agreed, BGS. It's safe to say that the woman is the de facto controlling partner in that marriage." I think so. I guess. I guess. I guess. Shaughnessy, closing comments on what you heard tonight, or what you believe, or what you want to pass on to the world.
I believe women have to be comfortable with themselves. They have to get to know themselves, be comfortable with themselves first. You know,
Okay. Heard.
I wrote this specifically for this. The question has been asked and answered. The question was, am I my brother's keeper? The answer was a resounding yes, which begs the rephrasing of the question and asking, am I my sister's keeper? And the answer was still a resounding yes. Thus the conundrum. Why would I want to keep a demographic who claims not to need men or even want us? Are we to be eunuchs to serve at the feet of women only to be dealt with like a black widow's mate after our role in her life has been filled? The laborious job of being emotionally prepared to be what a woman wants and needs isn't a position that can be filled by a man not. So, what to do? Who to turn to for clarity on how to deal with the mental needs of women? Should you even invest the time necessary to become a erudite of your anima? If you do, get a ROI. Never give your labor for free. Get something in return for your work. They may ask if they need to compensate you. Your reply should be, ain't you a woman? And as always, go with an understanding the curves in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time. Thank you, BGS.
Herb drumming jewels and being out on y'all asses.
yes, King, know your worth.
So with me, again, it kind of ties in everything. If you know you're struggling, you have to find the right people to be able to say that. You got to have people on your team that's going to help you, not people that just talk. A lot of people be JBT and just be talking, and they have nothing to offer or give you but negativity. Find those right people. If you don't find it in your house or with your man, you have to have some certain people that give you that positive spirit that's going to help you get over certain things. because at the end of the day, I'm more than likely it's probably an imbalance somewhere in your life, and that's the reason why you're struggling. So again, maybe you're doing too much. Maybe you're doing everything, and maybe someone else can give you a helping hand. Maybe you're dealing with that man that is kind of reluctant to do anything. You're like, hey, I pay for all of this, I do that. Then maybe you have family members or younger nieces and nephews that can do something because they adore you and they respect you. So find out who your resources are and use them, and make sure you try to get that teeter totter or get that balance in place. Because if not, you're gonna continue to struggle. With that said, we out. On to the next
Yes, yes.
episode. See y'all next week. Continue chiming in the counselor's corner.
Yes, sir.
And
We
see you
appreciate it.
next week. We out.
All right, people,
Yes.
take care.
Good
Peace.
night,
Good night.
everybody.
Thank you. Good night.